I'll call the meeting to order. It is now 7:09. This is for the East Lyme Board of Finance meeting for the evening of March 10th, 2021. First, I guess I need to see, is everybody here? I see John Birmingham, Peter, I see Rich Steele. Is Anton Toro here?
Yes.
She's here, okay. Okay, everybody's here then. So first I'd like to have delegations. Is there anybody from the public who wants to speak?
I think you have anybody tonight.
No, okay. Next is the approval of the minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of February 10th, 2021. Are there any changes, questions regarding those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting minutes of Wednesday, February 10th, 2021.
And is there a second? Okay, Peter DeRosa, thank you for the second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed? And abstained. I'm abstaining. Also, I should remark that Camille Alberti is not present here tonight. So it's just the 5 of us. Next are the reports. First would be from the Board of Education. Mr. Newton, good evening.
Hi, Ann, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good to see everybody. So two things. First off, you probably are aware, I think we might have mentioned it the last meeting too, we're in the process of phasing all of our students back into the school district. So we already have some of our primary grades in on Monday, grade 2, grade 5, and 6 return on the 15th. That's this coming Monday. And then on the 22nd of March, we'll have our whole high school, all students back in. And on the 29th, the remaining students, grade 3, 4, and grade 7, 8 will be back in full 4 days a week. And then as of April 5th, all of our students will be back 5 days a week, which will give us a buffer before April vacation, which starts up the week of April 12th. So we'll let everybody settle back in 5 days a week on April 5th, and then we'll have April vacation, kind of take a breath and see what remaining things, we might need to do as it pertains to, supporting our teachers and our staff and our kids, being back 5 days a week. Hopefully keep our fingers crossed, we'll have a solid, 8 to 9 weeks roughly to have all of our students, back in 5 days a week in a normal school experience. So that's first, and that's our top priority right now and our total focus, especially the high school, because we're bringing, almost 1,000 kids. Well, I take that back, roughly around 900, because we still have a little over 100 students that will be virtual back on site, kind of all at once. So we're working through that, and that kind of leads us to, my second item that I want to share. And it's okay if I can share my screen. Yeah, there you go.
Good.
All right, perfect. So this is an update on our COVID expenses. To date, we've shared this out pretty much each meeting. So we kind of consolidated, and I wanted to kind of highlight specifically, each month we've kind of dropped and we've gone down in expenses, but we have a little bit of an uptick because we're bringing, all of our students back. And the two items which make up basically 80,000 of the 99,000, net increase. Number one is plexiglass. $29,000 with all the high school kids coming back, all of our middle school kids coming back, especially those two groups have required a lot of additional plexiglass barriers, both in classrooms as well as in cafeteria spaces. So at the middle school, there's 2 designated. You have the whole cafeteria that is being used, but also we're using a Kiva. We pushed our world language teachers out of a Kiva and put them into another more confined space. and we're using a separate Kiva space as an additional overflow for lunch for students. And at the high school, we're taking over the South Gym. So one of the gyms is now becoming a lunchroom during 3 waves at the high school now of lunch. So we'll have two lunch spaces. With that being said, we need additional plexiglass because that's the most important and crucial time period of socially distancing students while their masks are off and they're eating lunch. So that's $29,000 in additional plexiglass as we phase all students in. And the other additional cost is this $50,900. Right now, and one of the biggest drivers of that is 8-foot lunch tables. I mentioned the high school and the South Gym. Well, we need tables in there. So we can't move any of the tables from our existing cafeteria space and commons area where they currently eat. We have to get additional tables to put into the South Gym. We need 80 tables to go in there. And we can move chairs because kids socially distance in the current commons and lunch area, but we have to space them out in the South Gym as well. We looked at, Mariana did a great job of researching, could be rent tables, but the cost is basically the same with a rental versus a purchase. And at the end, if we could try and sell back tables when we're not using them anymore, maybe we can, make some of that money back. So that's one of the biggest drivers of this $50,900. We also are trying to encourage as much as possible outdoor eating and outdoor activities, classrooms outdoors at the high school level. So we're investing in some additional picnic tables to be outside. We need some additional study desks with barriers, some of our special education classrooms, and then air purifiers as well in some of the classrooms. And our Coastal Connections program at Central Office requires some additional desks because of the tight seating, in those locations. So those 2 elements or areas are up, and that's 80,000. So it's the bulk of what we're looking at for a little bit of an increase, of the $99,000 increase. So we still have the grants in place, the ESSER 1 grant, the GEAR grant. We're just about to start applying for the ESSER 2 grant funding, but that ESSER 2 grant funding, there's some specific requirements around that, and that's really more about intervention, academic intervention services for the next 2 years, for students. So we're just starting to look at that, and we don't know what we don't know yet. So as we get all of our students back, we begin to assess them and find out where those academic gaps are. We could really kind of look at what needs will need to be in place, for next year. So you all should have received this document as well. It was sent. Okay, good. I see some heads nodding. So great. So I'll kind of pause there, and Mariana and I are here. Any specific questions that you might have?
I just had a question regarding you said there's 3 lunch waves. So what time do they lunch, and does that impact their classes then?
We had to revamp the entire kind of high school schedule because if you remember, it used to be just 1 lunch wave and everybody ate at the same time. So we had to factor in 3 lunches, and that started actually at the beginning of the year. So the kids are used to that now. It's just been cohort A and cohort B, but both of them have been part of a 3-wave lunch wave. So it's worked with continuing to maintain the block scheduling at the high school.
Are they still having the regular day from, like 7 o'clock till 2:10 or?
They are, yes. Yep. No change in the schedule time, no impacts or academic impact at all to their classes. It's just waves of lunches now pertaining to grades. So what we would do too is the other issue in the morning when all kids arrive at one time, you have an onslaught of kids coming in the building. So we're kind of separating out, and we're going to put kind of our 9th and 10th graders in one area, and our 11th and 12th graders, in another area. And we're doing the same thing for lunch as well with those waves.
And then if you have the tables in the gym, does that impact the gym classes?
It does. So we're trying to get creative with PE classes. Obviously, when the weather's nice, they're going to be outside as much as possible. But when it rains, they're going to have to factor that in and have backup lesson plans to be able to engage in non-aerobic, PE activities per se that will have to happen, elsewhere or hallways, in the gym, in classrooms, etc. So we'll hope for sunny days for all through spring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you still have a lot of virtual Vikings?
We do, yes. Over 400 students across the entire district. It's fluctuated now with the plans to bring students back. It's interesting. We actually, at the elementary and middle school level, we have more students coming back now that they know that we're going in full versus going out. But at the high school, we've got a few more students that are going virtual versus coming back. But the numbers are still, for each level, sitting around 120 roughly, elementary, 120 middle, and then a little bit higher at the high school level. It rounds out that 400 number. So we hope, we're trying to encourage, all kids to come back. I think what a lot of parents are doing too is they're waiting. They're going to say, you know what, let's see what happens. I'm going to wait till after April vacation to send my child back. If all looks like it's going well, then I'll go ahead and do it at that time. And that's okay. We're trying to get all kids back as soon as we can, and we'll keep encouraging that.
You're still planning to have this summer school?
We're working on, that's in the works, interventions, credit recovery for high school students. The issue we're starting to run into is staff, because we have to provide an extended school year program for students. So we need about 70 to 80 staff members, both teachers and paraprofessionals for that. That's the extended school year program for students with IEPs, the special education students, that's mandated per their IEP. On top of that, now we're looking at a summer school program, kind of an intervention-based program for students that aren't necessarily in special education, but were disengaged and require, that level of support. But we're trying to really ascertain how many staff are really going to be interested in continuing to work this summer. We keep kind of hearing, you know what, no thanks, I need a break. That's where we need some folks. So it might not be Lyme teachers. Maybe we're looking at other towns to try and recruit, some additional support staff and teachers. But I know other towns are doing the same thing. So that's where we're kind of in the middle of that right now, designing and developing the program, identifying the students, especially the ones that have been disengaged, and targeting them first, and then pushing to say, which staff members would be interested in trying to help us out, this summer. We are also planning to run, all of our all the summer programs, the camp programs this year, the park and rec programs at the schools. And we have an element of some parents that are just kind of saying, you know what, I've had enough of this year. My kid needs a break, or my child needs a break. I want them to go to a camp and have fun and not necessarily be engaged in school. So we've heard that as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this rolls out, but I really hope we can target those students that need that intervention, and we'll have that data as we work through, once all kids are back and SBAC's testing, takes place, and we get some scores.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Hi, Ann.
Hi. Oh, hi. Hi, Jeff. Just a couple of questions. We have, Anna Johnson did send us the updated COVID expenditure report. I was just wondering if you have an integrated document, because this is, it is up to date, but it is a summary version, as compared to, let's say, the November version, which had the detail on what was spent, let's say in particular on supplies or any other category. So do you have something like that, or is that available?
Yeah, we have a running tally. This is a document we shared with the board about on Monday night, so we were just being consistent, and this is what we pushed out, to all of you. But we do have a more detailed document, which not a lot has. Those two categories are the main game changers, but
Right.
we can forward that on as well.
Yeah, maybe as we whenever the other members would want it as well. But I'm thinking sometime in advance of your budget review evening might be a thought.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah, that would be great.
No problem.
Thanks. Because I just found myself shifting between, going back and forth between the documents. Yeah, thank you. And just one other question. So I understand that you're surveying the parents of students at this point about their desire to come back, not come back. So is that survey complete? Is the surveying complete?
Yeah, we've done all of the surveying. Parents some are still in limbo. because, you know, the timeline, like take high school, for instance, they still have kind of a 2-week window before high school students come back. So still there's a number of parents that are still on the fence, not sure whether they want to send their child back or not. You know, I've got 2 phone calls tomorrow with parents to kind of talk that through who are just concerned. So that's still in limbo.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
presumably you'll have some responses before the
Yeah,
start
we
date.
have to.
Yeah.
Exactly. We need to
Attaboy.
know.
Right.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to. But here's the thing, though, too. I mean, at any point, you know, they have the freedom, parents and families, to say it's not working for me, or you know what, I'm tired of being remote. I'm sending my child back, and they can flip the switch and tell us at any time between now and the end of the school year, because the
Right.
state continues to allow that temporary remote learning option, which, you know, is it's worked well for kids, but it's very problematic for us. So we're trying to find out from the state, you know, are you going to mandate, you know, is CSDE going to mandate us next year to have to offer this again? Because if they do, you know, we have to be prepared for that. There could be a cost for that. It's very problematic. But I do understand there are families that, you know, have medical conditions and, you know, really could take advantage of it too. So we're trying to see what happens with that.
Okay. Right, because you have a separate staff for to be able to run the virtual Vikings, correct?
We do at the elementary level. That K to 4 is a completely separate staff where students and teachers are together. Middle school and high school Zoom into the classrooms.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
Peter,
Yeah,
do you
Rich.
have any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if you have a feel for the uptake of vaccine among the faculty.
Yeah, Rich, we're in great shape, to be honest. This was something I was extremely nervous about prior to the start of March, because you know, we were really pushing hard and with faculty to say, you know, kids are coming back, but staff were very concerned about the fact that we're not vaccinated yet. So to make a long story short, we put out a survey this past Friday to all of our staff. Got a response back of about, you know, almost 400 of the 650 staff roughly, and almost all of them have had the opportunity to either schedule an appointment or have had their vaccine. So which is great. I just got mine at 5 o'clock, you know, this afternoon. So you know, it's my first dose. So everybody's gotten, you know, pretty much gotten their first dose. And the second doses will roll out, you know, very soon, next couple of weeks. So hopefully by the end of March, we'll be in good shape, and teachers will have that full. Yeah, we're excited about that. I'm so glad. A big clinic happened this past weekend, which a lot of our staff members went to at Foxwoods. So that helped out immensely.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff.
No problem. No problem. We'll look forward to seeing you in April. And I think April 8th, we're bringing forward in the budget. Yeah, great.
Great.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night.
Jeff.
Next on the agenda is the report from the first selectman.
Thank you, Ann. Members. I always try to make my report as short as possible so I can open it up for questions. As you know, the Niantic River Bridge project is nearing its end, but with that comes the pain of having to have the Niantic River Bridge closed for a 2-week period. It started this past Sunday. We have another whole week to go. There's been a lot of backups through town. If you've been trying to get home or get into Niantic, there's a lot of people coming off the highways at 74 and 75 that normally would have taken the coast road of 156. So we're seeing the effects of that. So be patient. From what I hear, everything is on schedule and on time. The public safety building is is also kind of it's not nearing its end, but it's getting closer and closer to a ribbon cutting and moving our police in. We're hoping July or August will actually, the project will be done. That will be several months earlier than anticipated. It is running under budget. We are using the contingency, and there was a report by some random citizen who jumped in the meeting and then came out and reported all sorts of misinformation. But I try to be kind these days. My message is be kind, everyone. But the town building committee that you have faith in, volunteers in our town, are doing a great job like they did at the elementary school. And this is a nothing project for them. This is a couple $1 million project compared to the elementary schools that we did. So they're moving right along. We're seeing some credits come back to us in certain places. So I have full faith that we'll be able to exercise our intentions in that building, and actually a little bit more. We're replacing some ceilings that we didn't think we'd have to replace. We're doing some little extra here and there because the funding is there for it, and it makes sense to do it now. Lastly, we've been deep into this budget that you're receiving tonight, or I think some of you picked it up yesterday, but officially the Board of Selectmen is handing off the budget to you this evening. So you have it. In years past, sometimes I've read that letter or excerpts of the letter that's in front of your budget book. I do ask you to take a look at it. That is, comes from the heart, but it also comes from the experience of putting the budget together. And while we kind of start where we left off last year and we start comparing numbers, we also strip everything down and really justify every expense. And that we're about to get into it again. That it's a tight budget year, but all 7 of mine have been very tight budget years, tough economy and all that. The good news is, of course, our grand list is up, and we're happy about that. And funding from the state, we're very confident that the funding from the state will remain level, and in some places are increasing. And of course, as you know, the Board of Ed is getting lots of money back from certain places. Of course, they're also in a pinch to spend a lot of money because of COVID and all this plexiglass that's so expensive. But they get some funding coming, and funding that doesn't just go to COVID expenses, but to education expenses. And this $1.9 trillion, although I'm not a fan of passing this down to our kids and grandkids, and we do need economic bailout, being a, and I don't want to play politics, but I think Connecticut ranks pretty high on the list of recipients of some of that $1.9 trillion aid package to cities, towns, and states. So we will watch for that. We probably will know something about the intentions there, or it will go to the state and the state will slowly roll that out. So I don't know during your budget process if we're going to know everything yet. But so it will be business as usual. You got your big thick book, you got your revenues, and we'll go make some decisions. The Board of Selectmen made some cuts, and they made some increase. They actually increased a few items that they thought would be better to manage the town with, and you'll do the same. I will tell you that the governor's executive orders, this is important for you folks, the executive orders expire at the end of the day on April 19th. That means we will be going to full meetings, in-person meetings, as of April 20th. And some of your meeting schedule falls after the 19th. So we're gonna be watching what happens at the State House, at the governor's mansion. Well, we're gonna be watching what happens in Hartford, whether the legislature allows him to extend some of these executive orders, especially as they pertain to town meetings, such as your budget meeting that you have in the auditorium, then the town meeting that adjourns to the referendum. We are going to have a referendum no matter what. Listen, we went through presidential primaries and presidential elections, and we also went through a referendum in November for the public safety bill, or October or September. So we're ready to do a referendum. And referendums, as you know, we cannot do mail-in ballots. It will be an in-person. People can pick up an application, an absentee ballot, and fill it out. If they're going to be out of town, or if someone's sick, they can bring it back to the house and bring it back to the town clerk's office. But we can't do mail-in ballots. That's by our charter. That's by state statutes as well. That said, after April 20th, we will be having these meetings at the town hall or in a suitable place. If we expect a big crowd, we'll have to go to a bigger place. The governor's orders on capacity also expire on April 20th. So at CCM, which is the organization that pulls all the first selectmen and mayors together, we're having lots of discussions about what do we do? What do we do if we have your budget hearing, and let's say it's controversial? We had one a couple of years ago at the middle school, and we packed the room, didn't we? Or you all did. And when you all packed the room, and there was 500 or 700 people in that middle school, we can't do that this year. That doesn't mean I want you to not make hard decisions, but we got to figure out under COVID restrictions, how does that happen? Do we do it over 3 nights, and do you have to sign up, or do you get a ticket, or we'll figure it out. And we've been figuring out since about this day a year ago, and we'll keep figuring it out. My guess is the governor's orders will be extended, but that has to be an order by the legislature to allow him to do that. So more to come, and I will certainly keep you and your chairperson informed. Okay. That's my report. I'm sorry I actually went longer than I intended. Any questions?
Just one question. When the executive order, if it expires, is there still going to be then the social distancing in the meetings? And then the social distancing is kind of a CDC recommended and all that. They wear a mask but the executive order said you can only have 100 people in a room and 200 people in an outside activity, right? Now municipalities were exempt from the executive orders, but we made a decision to follow those executive orders because we should set an example. And what's good for us should be good for Niantic Community Church and the Catholic Church and all other organizations. It didn't seem fair that we would disobey the rules or ignore the executive orders. So, but they will sunset on April 19th, and the legislature said we will not let the governor extend his executive orders, but the legislature could vote to extend them. Okay. So more to come. There's a lot of politicking going on. I think, listen, it's in everybody's best interest. They'll figure it out. Figure it out. But right now, we're in that purgatory of, right? Is it going to be or is it not going to be? And what happens when we have that town hall or your public meeting? And, we'll have to ask Mr. Newton if we can use his auditorium. Of course, that plays into he's going to need to then polish every one of those seats in that auditorium after we use it and to clean it. I mean, not polish it, but so there's just this extra burden all over the place. So it'd be great to do it on Zoom and trying to have a little bit more organized chaos than mass hysteria. We'll figure that out, though. We'll figure it out. Good question. Thank you.
Any others? Mr. Bernie.
I have a question concerning that $1.9 trillion. From what I read, the state of Connecticut is supposed to get a little over $5 billion.
Yeah.
And out of that, the town of East Lyme is supposed to get a little more than $8 million. Now, if that's true, when do you think we'll get that, and how will that be divided up in town?
Yeah, so nothing has come out on that. There was something that that Courtney sent out, Congressman Courtney sent out a while ago. I didn't think it was 8 million, maybe it was. But there was no explanation of where we could spend it. They're not going to hand us $8 million for a free-for-all. And I don't know if it will be available to us, but we'd have to prove that we need it. And maybe it will be the school expenses. And maybe it will be things in town that, a lost revenue, or if our restaurants that have closed, therefore we're not collecting the taxes, or, things like that. Or maybe it'll be available for us as a government to hold for rent assistance, funeral expenses they've been talking about. Maybe that's going to go through the town. So more to come on that, John. My guess is we're not going to be able to just bottom line the thing by $8 million.
I know, it might be stretched out for a few years too.
And that too, exactly.
Yeah.
My guess is going to be more for aid and those who might need it versus us just being bailed out on the tax relief thing.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and in connection with that, our tax collection is right on target this year. So, when we all would be, concerned, are we going to be able to collect the taxes as the tax bills went out? So far, so good. In fact, last night I checked in with John, it's right where it was last year. So we still have another month to go to collect the taxes that we're due in January. I think, the January taxes got extended a little bit, and I think that runs out in March, at the end of March. So, yeah. So,
Okay.
so far, so good. So revenues are going to be okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, we have new business. Under A, special appropriation NSCP grant for $20,334.
We forgot
Wait, Dan, we didn't have the report from Anna.
Anna.
Finance report.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to skip you there.
She wouldn't have said anything.
She'd be happy to let it go.
Well, I figured someone would say something at some point.
$8 million,
Yeah.
right? An
Yeah.
$8 million windfall and you're all set.
Yeah, really. So your reports did go out with your agendas. I'll go over the budget summary with you. And at this point, really, things are, I think, going rather well, considering that we've been dealing with COVID for the year. So for the most part, year over year, our revenues are, pretty much in line with where we thought they would be. In the month of February, our largest receipts were still relative to taxes. Since that January collection period ends on February 1st, that's why you see the 3.7 in the taxes. And our building permits and conveyance taxes continue to be very good for us this year. On the expense side, we did have some interest payments due on some of our bonds, our health insurance, storm overtime. You all know we did have some snow during the last month or so. The carpeting at the library, that project is finally, that was actually money that was encumbered from last year's budget, but we did, make the first half payment last month, and now the project is completed. We'll be making the other half. Our legal expenses, made a payment on the public safety IT for the additional support we receive, and some, our police overtime and our Niantic Fire part-time and overtime accounts are highlighted on that for you. I also sent out today an updated fund balance report after the Board of Education sent over the updated COVID report. The base that I used had changed. It actually, as you know, went up. So that report reflects, the difference is just about that, the $97,937. So instead of the estimate being at $8,036,000, it's at 7.9 million. Still good for us. I don't know, on the expense side, there are some areas that you will be seeing at your meeting next month. The building department, as you know, they've had, a remarkable year with permits, and so we've needed more hours for the part-time staff members that we have. So we'll be asking for some additional funding. What we'll do is we'll ask to increase the budget and increase the revenues. You know, we won't be taking from contingency for that. And there'll also be an ask for some additional hours for their admin support staff in that department as well. I'm happy to say, I think Flanders Fire Department will be doing some transfers within their own budget, but I think they're going to be able to make it through the year with the funding they have in their wages. Niantic Fire will be looking for some additional funding for them for their overtime account. I've been working with, you know, the chief the last day or so to kind of fine tune that. And then we'll also be doing, requesting a transfer from the police budget to the dispatch budget, because the overtime in the dispatch budget is a challenge for them. There are some additional funds available in the police regular salary account for various reasons. You know, they've had retirements this year. They've also had some turnover. So, you know, they have higher paying officers replaced with lower paying officers. And we also have had a couple of officers out on workers' comp. So while they're out on workers' comp, you know, their wages are paid by the comp carrier. So those are kind of the troubled areas in the on the expense side, if you will. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Anna? Okay. You go, John.
Okay, just one quick question. Looking over the revenue account, on the Pequot grant, is there going to be a problem with that, getting the extra $180,000?
No, that's yet to come. That's, you know, I'm not sure if it comes in. I think it might come next month in
Okay.
April.
I wasn't sure with all what's going on over there.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, you want to go next?
Yeah, and I apologize if I studied this, I could probably answer my own question, Anna, but both you and Mark talked about revenues, tax collection being on target as last year. I recall that we reduced our expectation by a small percentage in anticipation the tax collection would be increased. So when you're saying that we're on target, are we on target with the reduction that we budgeted for, or are we on target for where we were last year?
That's a good question. In terms of what we projected in our budget, I think we're pretty much in line there.
So we hit that projection correctly.
Yes.
If I would refrain that as good news. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay. And then Anna, on the sheet for the estimated unassigned fund balance, the double asterisk that you have at the end, town remaining balance based upon averaging 3 of the last 5 years balance.
Yes.
Which years did you use, and how did you determine which years to use for 3 of 5?
So what I did is I went back using the last 5 fiscal years, and like when you do when you look at trends like that, typically you have years that there are anomalies. So I removed the years that were the anomalies.
Okay, so discovered the outliers.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just one comment from the detailed expenditure report. Looks like we have an awful lot of departments that, in terms of the conferences or convention type thing and transportation, that those funds are not being spent. Do you anticipate for the departments where it's not encumbered and that they haven't spent them at this point, that might be a savings for us?
I would have to say yes, but not all departments, because I do know, like, for example, the assessors department in that area, their education is in June, and that they're doing that virtually. So while there won't be any transportation costs, there would be the cost for the programs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
the
Just it
registration fees.
just looked like a little glimmer of some good news there too. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
And
Yeah, hi, Anna. Just wondering what the status is of our audit?
Okay, so we are working on that, and when I talked to the auditor the other day, he did mention that soon I should have a draft to start looking at.
Okay, that's good. All right. So we're on target, I guess. Good. Thanks. Oh, and I did have one other little, I just, in the budget summary document, I just noticed under, in the revenue, on the right-hand side, the revenue, prior year interest in liens, I mean, it kind of appears twice, but I'm not sure you meant to do that.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
I wonder if I left something off of, yeah, okay, no, I apologize.
It's okay, yeah. I'm being lazy here because I should just go and look at another sheet and see what usually have another category of that, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head either.
Well, we also have current year interest in liens.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you, Anna. Okay, now we'll move on to new business.
It's good.
Okay, so new business under A, special appropriation NSEP grant for $20,334 for EOC equipment, which is Emergency Operations Center equipment. Is Chief Finkelstein here?
No, he is, and I'm capable of explaining this one because it's so simple, and only because it's so simple. By the way, Chief Finkelstein and his wife Mary Beth had their baby 2 days ago, and they swear that's the end of the family line there. They're going to stop. They swear. I think they've actually made sure of that. So when you do see the chief, you wish him well with his expanded baby. So he's not here tonight, probably spending good quality time with his family. But this $20,000 and change item is a grant. So these are easy things to talk about. We're handed money. But we're handed money for very, very specific things that must be qualified for. We are a nuclear town, which means we get nuclear money. We do, Waterford does, and New London does, because with that, because we're a nuclear town, we have mandates and obligations that other towns don't have to go through, such as the nuclear drills that we go through once a year and other such emergency operations center drills and preparedness and certain criteria that we have to hit a bar that other towns wouldn't necessarily have to hit. So the NSEF, which means the Nuclear Safety Emergency Fund, is something that's out there that we apply for every year based on our needs. With our move to the new public safety building, we had this in mind already. It was part of our costs that we would be able to get some nuclear money. And part of this nuclear money is here tonight. We're going to outfit the Emergency Operations Center with laptops and monitors and some various items. And it's not a lot of expense. A lot of our equipment is going to be coming over from our current Emergency Operations Center, and big TVs and a big long conference table that we sit at with our phone systems. So when there's an emergency, there's 12 tables in a command center, if you will. But this is an enhancement to that. As we move into the new building, we'll be able to upgrade some of our equipment. And we're asking, believe it or not, part of our process and part of our charter says, when we get money like this, yes, we have to go before the two bodies of approvals, and this is what we're asking of you tonight.
Any questions? No? Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
So, move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $20,334 from NSEP Award 2021-67 to account 01-70-725-225-006 in parentheses NSEP-equipment for purchasing various communications and office equipment for the new.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Rich Steele?
Yep.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Comments? Okay, not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Abstain? Okay, it passes 500. Moving on to under new business, part B, to ratify departmental transfers in the amount of $215,235.43. Anna, is this something that you're going to be addressing?
Sure. So, departments, if they need to transfer funds that are within their own budget, we have a process for that. They, they put the request in, it's approved by the first selectman so that we can process the transfer, and then it gets ratified by both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, for transparency purposes. So these are various transfers that have taken place since the beginning of the fiscal year, pretty much through the end of March. So several of them are related to various wage accounts for, whatever the appropriate reason. And then oftentimes we have some issues with the legal accounts, but we do transfer from within the legal budget for those. And then a few other miscellaneous items. If anyone's, in looking it over, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
I have one, Anna.
Sure.
Maybe I'm just not interpreting this correctly. It's the line for the fire marshal from account director to part-time fire marshal. I thought what we had talked about at the last meeting was taking the money from the part-time fire marshal and putting it into the fire marshal's account for his cost of living increase.
And that's exactly what we did. It's reversed on the report, though. It's in the wrong column. I see that.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question, Anna. Referring to the expenses for the ceiling replacement in Town Hall, how
Yes.
close are we to finishing that?
Well, that is an ongoing project. We have done the simpler, we've done the main areas. We did do, over the last week, we did do the selectman's office suite and the halls near there. And we have targeted other areas. And so it's just a matter of the scheduling, because now we have to make arrangements to move staff out of their offices and have, set up other workspaces for them while we do the work. But I will say that when we did the selectmen's suite, that was done start to finish over 1 week. So what we learned from the other areas that we did is what we have to do to coordinate all the workers, because we have a crew that comes in that does the ceiling, removes the old ceiling and gets ready to put the new ceiling up. But we also have to have an electrician come in. So, like before, we waited several days to get the electrician to come in. And then there's also certain supplies that we need to make sure we have in place when the workers come out to do them, so that we don't have any stalling in the time. So it's just going to be a matter of, coordinating and scheduling.
Yeah.
It's like, one of the office suites that's due to be done is the finance department. And I told Joe, I said, look, during budget season, I really don't want to be, relocated because I don't want to have to deal with that. So it's just all a matter now of coordinating and planning to make it, to make it work for everyone.
Yeah, so this $17,000 more or less is for what work has been done so far.
No, that I believe is for work that we're going to do. We started, I don't know if you recall, but in last year's CIP, we allocated $25,000 of LoCIP funds to be used for that.
Yeah.
We used all of those, so when we went out to bid for the project, it was more costly than what we originally estimated. So we've gone through all that LoCIP funding. So in analyzing his budget, Joe had found, we were going to have some additional funding left at the end of the year in the electricity account. So, we had a discussion, and so that's why he did the transfer, so that we can do additional ceiling work, because it really has made a difference in the areas that we have done, and would like to get, the whole upstairs completed.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question, Anna, regarding, it talks about near the bottom, Special Counsel Inland Wetland Agency Appeal of Regulation Amendment. What
Yes.
is that exactly?
Okay. So,
That's the new.
Is that the upland review area
Yeah.
that
right.
they're appealing, developers?
Yes.
What?
There'll be a significant cost to that appeal because we have to use outside counsel. The party that appealed won a lawsuit several years ago that we can't use our own town attorney, so there's a conflict of interest there. We went out and shopped other attorneys and actually found lots of conflicts of interest and issues, but we found one, and respectable, and Robinson Cole, I think, is where the fellow comes out of that, and good law firm, but expensive.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is a lot of work involved as well. There's mounds of paperwork on this appeal. I probably should stop there. Yeah, it's not something we anticipated. Obviously, when we put our budget together last year, we wouldn't have known that the inland wetlands would make this decision, but they did, and now we have to go defend it.
Okay,
Cost of doing
great.
business.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to I'll move to ratify departmental transfers in the amount of $215,235.43 processed for fiscal year and June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Ann Santoro. Is there a second?
Okay.
All right, John Birmingham. Is there any further discussion, comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the motion passes then 5-0-0. Okay. Next on the agenda is to approve a schedule for the proposed 2021-2022 budget meetings. I think it was in your packet. I don't know if people have had a chance to look at it. It looks like, just to do a quick run through, April 8th is set aside for just the Board of Education, including capital items. And then we go to April 12th, which entails about, let me see, looks like about a dozen departments. And then also those departments, I guess, that have CIP items. And then we would go on to the April 14th, so it's like another 12 departments, along with the capital debt and CIP items. April 19th. And then it looks like budget deliberations, it would be the 21st, 22nd, and 24th if required. Public hearing on the budget for April 26th, the annual town budget meeting, May 10th, the referendum, May 20th, and then we set the mill rate May 26th. Questions? Mark, I have a question. Is that referendum, is that stone, that date for the referendum?
That's by charter.
That's by charter. Okay. Got it.
Again, with executive orders sliding now and probably expiring, there's probably not a good chance that we can slide that. I think we were allowed to slide the referendum last year. We didn't take advantage of it. I think we still had it on our day, but there was some flexibility in last year's schedule built in. This year, I don't see the need to it, frankly. I see things going in a different direction, a good direction.
We didn't have the budget referendum last year.
No.
Oh, we didn't even have one. Yeah, that's right.
No, we didn't.
That's right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But we could have slid it, I think. Thank you for reminding me. I knew that.
No, because that was, we had a lot of discussion on how to make that work because it
Right.
was as the Board of Finance.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for correcting.
I just wanted to point out, so in looking over the list, I did find that there were some departments that are not included on the list. So if I'd like to just tell you what departments they are. 127, Board of Assessment Appeals, 110, Registrars, 116, Zoning, 117, Planning, 130, ZBA, 132, Inland Wetlands, and 133, which is the Waterford East Lyme Shellfish Commission. So if the board did want to include having meetings with those departments that I've just listed, my recommendation would be to add Department 127 BAA and 110 Registrars to the meeting of Wednesday, April 14th. And then to add the remaining departments, Zoning, Planning, ZBA, IWA, and the Waterford East Lyme Shellfish Commission to the meeting on Monday, April 19th.
If they need to see those, I agree with you. The registrars are something. There's some discussion on the registrar's budget, maybe on the BAA as well. But the rest of them are not pass through budgets, but it's wages and paper clips. And I don't know if you want these department heads coming and taking up a half an hour every time talking about the department and all the building that's going on in zoning. And it's your prerogative, but you might find that to be. Look over their budget maybe before you schedule that. I don't think you're going to see anything there.
Are most of those budgets flat then? Basically.
Flat plus the wage, the wage increase. The general wage increase, the GWI, by contract. And other than that, there's nothing in them. Yeah. But registrars, yes, and BAA, it's a big year for assessment appeals because of the reval. So people will be coming in. So you might see a bump in that, and you might want to talk about that in their process.
Yeah. So like the BAA, the reason I suggested adding to the meeting of the 14th is because that's the night that the assessor is scheduled to meet with you. So it would make sense for the assessor to discuss that with you. So the registrar's budget, there's actually a decrease of $27,000 in that budget, but you have to remember this year's budget included, presidential primary and the presidential election. And then let's see, zoning, planning. So zoning budget increase is 2.6%. Planning is 1.83. ZBA is flat. Now IWA has a bit of an increase. That's where the consulting is, Mark, relative to that text amendment change. And then the Waterford East Lyme Shellfish, that went up because it was restored back to the 3,500 from a couple of years ago. So there's an increase there. So just for the board's information.
I guess, I have a question, I guess, Anna. It looks like there's quite a few departments on for each night. Is there a way that if we don't make it through, that we could add on another night?
That's what that Saturday, I think, is for, isn't it?
Well,
Excuse
no,
me?
that looks like that was for, like budget deliberations, I thought, the 24th. I'm saying
Oh, yeah,
getting
you're
through the departments the first time around.
Right, right.
But it's starting at 6:30 at night, and I know, like, I'm kind of fading by 11:30. I'm,
Well, I did look back at last year's meeting. So last year, there was a meeting on a Saturday, and that meeting was 4 hours and like say 4.25 hours. And
okay,
we went through a lot of departments. And then there was also a meeting, another meeting that was, on a weeknight. And that meeting was over 5 hours. And that was just pretty much doing everything in 2 nights. So I think having the 3 nights to do all of the town departments, it should be manageable for
to be
you.
manageable. Okay,
Work, okay. And then, of course, you have the other meeting for the Board of Education.
yeah, and that's good to, I think, to separate that.
Yeah, I agree. The 1 o'clock morning meetings are tough when you're working.
Yeah, I mean, I get up at 6 in the morning. It's
Some of
hard.
us still have day jobs,
Yeah, I'm up early. It gets a little hard.
Don't forget the department heads have day jobs too. So, they all got to get up to, so you're absolutely right. We all suffer when we go that late.
Yeah, it gets late. Does anybody have any comments, concerns?
I just wanted to confirm they are starting at 6:30 as opposed to 7. And that's
That's correct, yes.
okay.
Does that work for you, Peter?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I log on or show up on time, that's all.
So I just was wondering with the departments like planning and zoning and ZBA and shellfish, et cetera. So how are we leaving that? We're reviewing them, but are we doing anything offline, or how, if we have questions, if they're not integrated really into that April 19th review with the department heads? So how best to proceed there?
Sounded like if we wanted them there, we could request that they attend. That's how I understood it.
Look the budgets over, and I would suggest look the budgets over, and I'll make any department head available to you. I mean, you all can talk about them those nights without the department head. I don't know that you need Bill Mulholland, the zoning officer, here at 11:30 at night to talk about paper clips.
Yeah.
And not even an increase in paper clips, the same amount of office supplies. So you look it over. If you want us to add zoning or planning or some of the others, you may. I do suggest you look at BAA and registrars, and there might be 1 or 2 others. And a lot of them you can just ask me
Okay.
or Anna, because we put the budget together, bottom line. Every line we know inside and out.
And we know you're on top of the paperclip supply.
We got it, man. We've cut way back on paper clips.
We spent it all on computers.
And what I'm thinking is maybe when we meet for like the Board of Education that evening or on the 12th, we could then kind of review it and say, does anybody want any of these departments to come? And then we could tell Mr. Nickerson, and then he could make sure that they're there.
Good plan.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if we can avoid, having every department head,
Yeah.
and, there needlessly, then that's a good thing. Yeah.
I agree. So I had another question. For the public hearing, the annual town meeting, and set the mill rate, are there times for those meetings, or are they at 6:30 or 7? Or are they going to be set later on?
I do believe the public hearing is typically at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And the annual budget meeting as well.
Thanks.
And then the referendum, when it gets closer to the date, the Board of Selectmen has to,
Says that.
set the resolution for that, and they determine what time it's going to be. I think typically, if memory serves me, it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mhm.
And then setting the mill rate, I do believe that we have had that at an earlier time in the past.
Okay.
But a lot of this was just to kind of get the schedule in place and come up with dates for everyone.
Good. I had another question, Anna. This, looks very good and pretty balanced too, where, in terms of the particular departments on a given night. Just wondering when the board may see the capital improvement plan on the town side.
So the capital improvement plan, the plan is for that to go to the Board of Selectmen, and hopefully they will act on it at their meeting next week. So
Okay.
if they approve it, I can certainly email everyone a copy of that plan.
Okay.
And if you would like hard copies, I can also send those in the mail.
Okay. That's good. That's fine. And then I know I had, when I picked up my budget book, I had asked you about the Board of Education's capital improvement plan.
Mhm.
And you had mentioned to me that they have quite the booklet this year, because it's not just the spreadsheet, it's detailed information on a number of those up and coming capital improvement projects. So, yeah, I mean, definitely some version of it would be wonderful to have before that review of the Board of Education budget.
Yeah, actually, I guess thank you for bringing that up. So in speaking with Mariana Stevens about the Board of Education, typically they put together a booklet for you. And so on the board side, apparently this year, some of them didn't take a hard copy. They just, they opted to just deal with the online version. So I was just wanting to ask you, do you want a hard copy of that Board of Ed document, or are you okay with, an online version?
Well, I personally love love to have the paper copy of these things, because I tend to mark them up, and I'm going between things. So, yeah, I mean, I personally would prefer it. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way.
I would prefer the hard copy as well.
Yeah, I would too.
Me too.
Okay, so I will let Mariana know that you all would like a hard copy, and also a hard copy of their capital improvement plan. And she did tell me that she would have them all delivered to your houses.
Okay,
Okay.
Just thoughtful. I appreciate that a lot.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Great.
I take it works for everyone.
That's great.
thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you.
Any other comments this time regarding the proposed budget meeting schedule? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the budget review schedule as proposed.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, John Birmingham, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Abstained? Okay, it's 500. Motion passes. Next on the list, on the agenda, is any old business? Anybody has?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Public discussion. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak at this time?
I don't believe you have anybody on board tonight.
No one else? Okay. Moving right along. Board comments. Anybody on the board have any comments they'd like to make at this point?
I do.
Ann Santoro.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm so looking forward to in-person meetings. And I just really want to get out of this box that we're in, not to be corny about it, and I just think it'll be so good for the board and also so good for the public. I think just to decide if they want to just sit at home, watch a meeting, or come on down to town hall, face to face, and especially as we go through a budget process. So I'm so excited that that's a possibility. And, it's just so important in my mind to, finally feel that we're at a point that we can fully comply with our open meeting laws, which I think are so important. So just a thought there. And I hope it all progresses and that we find some way to, you know, have our meetings broadcast and Zoom them at the same time. Don't know about the technology there, but it certainly would be great. So I think we're all, I don't have kids in the school system anymore, but I am sort of feeling like one of the parents, maybe of school-age children, which is, we're excited about going back, most likely. So that's it. Thanks.
I think just to follow up on that too, I'm looking forward to actually having a referendum so that, the town can have a say this year. I see that just from listening to some of the Board of Selectmen meetings that, and the Board of Ed, that, there seems to be a lot of needs and wants in the town. So it'll be good to have the town vote at the referendum. So I'm looking forward to that and to get, into getting back together. Anybody else? No? Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to adjourn. No one has anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Ann Santoro. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 5-0-0. And I guess we will be adjourned at 8:21.